Alright, what is up, you guys? So, let me get comfortable. So today, you know, I've been kind of like recording these videos, just sharing my testimonies about things that I've been through. And so, of course, today, if you read the title, I will be talking about the time that I had went to jail. So, this happened, I want to say that this happened like in 2014, 15, somewhere around there. It's been some time. And basically what happened was, so at the time I was living with my boyfriend at the time. We had our own apartment, and I was supposed to be picking up my sister from school to take her to the doctor's office. She had an appointment, and I went on about my way, went to go pick her up. We're leaving the school, and at the time, even before I get into this, at the time I was, I was just like 18, wild, free, had no care in the world, had nothing to really live for. So I was just really doing whatever, and I had really bad road rage at the time. And I'm not like that no more, but had really bad road rage at the time. And so anyway, I'm picking her up from school. We're leaving out of the school parking lot, and this girl like cuts in front of me, but she cut in front of me so close, I honestly thought that she hit my car. So at this point, I'm heated, I'm going off, I'm like, fuck this, I'm cursing, I'm like, I'm finna, what I'm saying, I'm gonna follow this girl. So we're pulling, she pulls, of course she's in front of me at this point, so we pull out of the school parking lot, we pull to a red light, and I'm like, she just hit my car. I'm on the side of her, she's like in the turning lane, so I'm in the side of her, and I'm like, what I'm saying, like we're going back and forth, and she's like, yeah, pull over, and I'm like, all right, bitch, I'm gonna pull over. So we pull into CVS parking lot. I think that's CVS or Walgreens. We pull into that parking lot, and it's her and two dudes, and it's me and my sister. So we pull up, I hop out, like I approach the car, and from there things just went left really quick. So we ended up, of course, getting into a fight, and next thing I know, like the police are pulling up, and the police are like, we're not gonna arrest you, we just need to separate y'all. So they separate us, they put me in handcuffs, and next thing I know, the ambulance is being pulled up, like the ambulance is pulling up. They're taking pictures of her, like all this stuff, and I'm like, whoa, what is going on here? So the police officer who originally had pulled up, like by the time I knew it, it was like 12 cops out there. Like it was like 12 cop cars out there, and I'm like, whoa, this is not even what y'all trying to make y'all to be, but whatever. So the original lady who had handcuffed me, she's like asking what happened, I'm telling her what happened, and I'm like, at this point, we done fought, let's shake hands and let's go on about our day. So they was not feeling that vibe. I'm like, I'll apologize, you know what I mean? Like I'll say I'm sorry, whatever. So at this point, they're taking pictures of her, the ambulance is there, they're searching my car. I pepper sprayed her and the two dudes, so I threw the pepper spray, so they didn't know that I had the pepper spray, but they ended up going in and watching, the cameras or whatever. So they ended up watching the cameras and seeing. So next thing I know, now at this point, I'm in the back of the cop car. My sister is outside of the cop car, and she's in the ambulance. So next thing I know, my sister is getting handcuffed, and I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, why is my sister getting handcuffed? Like, my sister, she didn't do nothing. You know what I'm saying? Originally, it was me fighting. My sister ended up jumping in because the two dudes had jumped in. So So yeah, next thing I know, my sister's getting handcuffed. This is my younger sister. I'm the second oldest. So they put my sister in the car, and I'm asking her, like, what's going on? And because, bro, they was not trying to tell me anything. They had me sitting in the back of this cop car, heated, no AC, and all, like, I'm listening on the radio, because, you know, they got the little radio thing. So I hear them saying my name. I hear them saying my sister's name. And they're, like, talking, going back and forth, and, like, using all these codes. And I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, bro, I cannot go to jail. So next thing I know, they put my sister in the car. I'm asking her what's up. She's like telling me, you know, that the girl was saying this stuff. And I'm like, what? I'm like, all of this didn't even happen. Like, so I'm telling my sister, like, at this point, I was super scared. We wasn't able to call nobody. They towed my car. And, oh, they also ended up finding a knife in the car. But before you even say anything, I always just used to carry a knife. I mean, I'm a woman. We gotta carry some type of protection. So I've always had like a hand knife or whatever in my car. So they ended up finding that or whatever. And so I'm telling my sister, I'm like, bro, we're not gonna go to jail, because she's asking, like, are we going to jail? I'm like, no, we're not gonna go to jail. At this point, it wasn't confirmed if we was going to jail. I just heard them talking about our names on the radio. So yeah, I see them. They're taking pictures of her. She ends up leaving in the ambulance, and next thing I know, we're driving. The officers get in the car. I think it was 2 cops that were in the car. I'm not sure if it was one, but anyway, so they ended up taking us to not the jail, but like, I guess like a small little jail or something, or, you know, the little jail that's in that area. And we're just in there. So they separated me and my sister, and they had cells in there, but they separated us in the cells. And me and my sister, oh my gosh, we're in there singing the Akon song, I'm locked up, they won't let me. So we're in there singing, because I'm not gonna lie, at this point, like, we think this is a joke. So we're laughing, we're singing this song like really loud. They're like, shut up, like, they're telling us to shut up, the cops. We're the only people there, but they're telling us to shut up or whatever. And so they take us, we do our pictures, they do our fingerprints, and they're like booking us or whatever. So I'm like, what the heck? So next thing I know, no, let me backtrack. So I'm like, okay, we need to call somebody at this point. Like, I need to call my mom or somebody. But mind you, we have cell phones. Who remembers numbers these days? So I could not remember my mom and them number. So my phone was literally like seconds away from dying. So I tell the officer, I'm like, yo, I really need my grandma's number. Like, please, like, you can bring it to me. Just let me get my grandma's number. So at first they was like not feeling that. But then one of the cops ended up bringing my phone and letting me get my grandma's number. As soon as I got my grandma's number, my phone died. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this cannot be happening right now. So at this point, mind you, everybody probably think we at the doctor's office. So they get us in the car, and so I wrote it on a piece of paper, but I had to give the paper to the officer. I couldn't keep it. So I remember looking at the number, memorizing it, okay, giving it to him. So we get in the car again. They handcuff us, put us back in the cop car, and they're taking us downtown. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, this cannot be happening. So I have the clothes that I had on. I had I think I had a white shirt on with some booty shorts. Like, it was summertime, but I had some shorts on. I'm not gonna say that they're booty shorts, it's just that I'm just a little bit thicker below the waist, so, you know, they just, yeah. And my sister, I can't remember what my sister had on, but so yeah, they're taking us downtown, you know. And I'm not gonna lie, like, the cops were kind of cool, you know. We was in there, we was vibing or whatever, we was singing songs and stuff. And we get downtown, that's when stuff gets real, because we get downtown, and as soon as we enter into the jail, it's like a shitload of people. Like, I'm like, what is going on here? Mind you, the clothes that I have on, there's like people just staring at me. And at this point they have the women and men mix, like everybody's kind of in the same area. So dudes is looking at me, women is looking at me. I'm just like, oh my gosh, this cannot be real. So they ended up, they processed us there, and we're in a holding cell. So we're in the holding cell with like a whole bunch of other people. And so they finally let us make our call, because you know you get your calls or whatever. So me and my sister were at the phone, and I'm like looking for the paper, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the cop had the paper with my grandma's number on it. So we're trying to think, like we're literally putting numbers together. Like I'm like, I remember the 832, and she's like, she remembers the middle numbers, and but neither one of us knew the last four. So we're like trying to think of our grandma's number, we're trying to think of our mom's number. We're just typing in numbers. By the grace of God, we was able to call my grandma. Like we're just waiting on it, and next thing you know, we hear my grandma, hello, and we're like, grandma, and she's like, Mia? And we're like, grandma, call mom, we in jail. So she's like, what do you mean you're in jail? So we're like, just call mom, tell her to bond us out. So we're like, you know, so happy. So then we're like, grandma, what's your number? Because we had already forgot what numbers that we had typed in. So my grandma gives us the number. She gives us our mom's number. So whenever you call in, you have to say your name, because it says like a little message, and then you say your name, and then when the other person gets the call, it'll say you're receiving a collect call from that person's name from Harris County Jail, whatever. So we call my mom, I say my name. As soon as the little message was over with, my mom went off. Like my mom is like, my mom's we're black and Mexican, so my mom is like she's like white skin complected, but my mom is ghetto. So as soon as the message is, she's like, what the fuck are you doing in jail? And I'm like, mom, let me tell you. I'm like, let me tell you what happened. So then my sister's in the background, she's like, it was all Lay's fault. And my mom was like, what the hell, your sister's in there too? And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, bro, I was more scared of going home than being in jail. I'm not gonna even lie, because my mom's that mom. So I'm like, bro, I just know we was finna get beaten when we got home. So I'm like, mom. I'm like, it's not even like that. I'm like, I'm finna tell you what happened. So I tell my mom what happened. She's kind of feeling what I'm saying, but you know, not feeling what I'm saying. And I was just like, it wasn't my fault. I'm like, the girl over exaggerated, blah blah blah. So she's like, she calmed down for a little second, and she's like, okay. Now at this point, my mom is not even in Houston. Like my mom was on the road at the time. So my mom was like in a whole nother city, I think a whole nother state. She wasn't even in Houston. So she was trying to figure out who could she call here in Houston to get the bonds people or whatever. So we trying to figure that out. So we're like, mom, like, hurry, get us out of here. Like, we don't want to be here. So she's like, all right, I'm gonna figure out what I can do. I'm gonna figure out y'all. I'm finna call. So we get off the phone with my mom. By this time they're calling names. So they call they're calling our name or whatever. So they line up the people and they move us to another holding cell. This is where like another next level of realness kicked in, because when we're in this holding cell, you had people in there that was like on drugs. You had people in there that was like really messed up. You had people in there that was just like doing whatever. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is a shit show. So we're in this cell. At this time, you guys, I have no idea what time it is. I have no idea if it's day or night time, because we had already been in there for some time now, and there's no windows, so we couldn't see anything. So we're sitting there, it's freezing cold. I'm hungry at this point. I'm like super frustrated, because I'm just like, bro, I don't want to be here. Where's my car? It's just like so many things going through my mind. So we're sitting there, you know, we was able to make calls, so we're constantly calling my mom. We're trying to see, you know, where's the bonds people, like what's going on, everything like that. So You got people, and I remember it was like this girl, I know the girl had to be messed up because she was just like literally dancing like ballerina, twirling around the whole room. Like she's just twirling. We're like, what the hell? So I remember it was this prostitute in there. Now when I say prostitute, you guys, and I'm not judging, I know everybody gotta make it, they gotta get it how they live, but this was an old lady in there. She was like a prostitute. I felt so bad for her because I'm like, I can't imagine being an old lady prostituting. But anyway, you had people in there. I think this one girl was in there for like messing up her boyfriend's stuff. She like busted the windows out of his car, like all different type of things. Like everybody's just in there for different stuff. And so I'm heated at this point because I done told my sister that we wasn't going to jail and we're in jail, and I'm just like, oh, this cannot be my life right now. So at the time I had asthma really bad, and I'm not gonna lie, I thought by me telling them I had asthma I was gonna get like a little pass. Not the case. They didn't care. They didn't care about none of that. So they have this process where like they have you go to this like little window or whatever, and you tell them, you know what I'm saying, if you're taking medicine, you tell them if there's any, you know what I'm saying, maybe you got seizures, like whatever medical problems that you have, you let them know. Because if you are on medicine, then they get that medicine to make sure that they're giving it to you while you're in there. So whenever I get to this little place, I tell them I got asthma. Why did I tell them that? Next thing I know, after that whole process was done, I'm speeding this up because mind you, this process took like over an hour, maybe like 2-3 hours, because they have to do that to everybody that was in there. So next thing I know, they line us up again, they move us again. At this point, everybody's just either sleeping or, you know, just looking at each other, trying to take up time. Again, I don't know what time it is. I don't know if it's daylight, sunlight. I don't know if this is day 2, day 1, day 3. Totally don't know. So then I remember one of the girls, okay, so they were like a sergeant or, you know, one of the correctional officers. She was asking them the time, and they were so rude about trying to tell us what time it is. Like they seriously did not want to tell us what time it was, and I'm just like, what? Why don't you want to tell us what time it is? But anyway, so we just never knew what time it was. Now I remember they came around and they brought these sandwiches. Makes my stomach hurt thinking about it. These are not even sandwiches. Like I don't even know what they feed you in there. Like it's disgusting. But they gave you this sandwich. First off, the bread was like totally discolored, did not look like even like wheat bread. This was not normal bread. The cheese was like super hard. Like you could look at it and tell that it was hard, and it was like an off-color yellow. Ew. And then the meat was like not even meat. I don't even know what that was. So I didn't even eat my sandwich. I was like, I'm not eating this, so I gave my sandwich away. But they had the oatmeal cream pie. They had the oatmeal cream pies. I ate those. They were so, I'm not gonna lie, they were good. Who knows if they were even real, but that's what I ate. So anyway, backtracking. So yeah, they ended up moving us. Everybody's chilling at this point. They ended up calling us again. They lined us up on this wall, and they're like, who, you know, they're gonna call these names, and whoever name they call, you gotta step up. So they're going through the name. They end up calling my name, so I step up, and I'm like, they didn't call my sister's name, so I'm like, why did they call my name and not my sister's name? I'm trying to stick with my sister. Like I didn't want to be with nobody else but my sister. So I'm like, so whenever they did that, once they called the last person's name, they're like, you guys line up over here. And so they separated us. Oh my gosh, you guys, I was so upset. Like I started bawling. I'm not gonna even lie to you. I started crying because I was just like, fuck, where's my sister going? Where am I going? Why are we getting separated? Comes to find out, since I told them I had asthma, they moved me. They separated the people who didn't have medical problems versus to the people who had medical problems. So they separated us. So all I remember was just looking back at my sister, and just like as I'm looking back, we're just getting further and further and further and further, and I'm just bawling my eyes out. I was so upset. I'm telling them, I'm like, I don't have asthma, I lie. They wasn't trying to hear that. So we ended up leaving. I don't know where my sister went at this time. So what she says is they went to cells. We didn't go to no cells. At the time the jail was also overcapacitated, so they didn't have no space. So they just kept moving us to like these pods. They just kept moving us to pods. So I'm in there. So not only was I with the medical people, I was with the psychiatric people. God help me. That was that was a whole nother level, because I'm like, I'm crazy, but I'm not that level of crazy. So that was just like a whole thing with itself. Like, you have people coming in there with like anxiety, people who was like on certain medications who hadn't been getting their medication, so they were, you know what I'm saying, reacting, their bodies reacting to them not having these medications. It was just super, super crazy. So I remember being in one of the cells or whatever, and a girl comes in there. You also had people who was coming in there, who were getting, like, let's say their wisdom teeth was getting pulled out, then they was coming up in there. So I think she had got some work done or something like that. But she comes in there and she has a blanket, and she is like clinging on to this blanket. And the room is like, it's a big room, but at the end, on this end you have a door, and then on this end you got the toilet, and then the toilet has a drinking fountain on top of it. So disgusting. I didn't even want to use the toilet. I didn't want to drink the water. Like, I didn't want to touch nothing. It was so disgusting. But you just had pads. Oh my God, it was just so disgusting. Like, when someone took a shit, you smelled it and you saw it, because it was just right there. Like, it was just like whatever. So we ended up so the girl, yeah, she comes up in there and she is clinging onto this blanket, and she goes and she sits down. And the room that we're in, no beds, no seating, like, it's just straight brick. You just gotta find a spot. So she walks in there, she finds a spot. Mind you guys, we've been in this holding cell for quite some time now, like some hours, and they have this air filter thing, and it's just shooting straight cold air. Like, I swear, they try to freeze you in there. So you just gotta use your clothing. Oh, and I gotta backtrack too. You just gotta use your clothing. So I remember one of the girls, she was like, oh, she got a blanket. I'm like, please don't fight this girl for this blanket. Like, I'm not trying to witness someone get beat up for their blanket. Because we had been in there, no blanket, no pillow, like, everybody's just freezing. It was so cold to the point where some of the women, like, got on the floor and they laid together for the body heat. So when she comes in there with the blanket, like, all eyes are on her, because we in here cold. So I'm like, oh my gosh, please don't take her blanket. So the girl was like, are you gonna share that blanket? The tone that I'm using is not the tone that she used. I just want to advise that. So the girl was like, no. And I feel like God saved her, because before anybody could attack her for this blanket, a sergeant or officer comes and he's calling out some names. But he just so happened to see her with the blanket. He was like, where'd you get that blanket from? She was like, I guess, wherever she had got it from. He was like, you're not supposed to breathe here with the blanket. He's like, breathe here. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he's taking her blanket. Like, I feel so bad because it's so cold. And she was like, no, but they said I could. And before she could even finish, he was like, I'm not going to say again, bring me the blanket. And I'm like, oh. So everybody's just watching her walk back towards the door to give the blanket. And he took the blanket. That's not funny. He took the blanket, and she goes and sits back down, and that was kind of the end of that. I felt so bad. I was like, obviously either way it was going to get taken, because if it wasn't him, then the people in there was going to take it. But anyway, so let me backtrack. So before we even had moved, like, to the other pods and stuff like that, before even me and my sister had got separated, we had to change clothes. Probably the worst experience from up in there, because so they take you in this room, they have everybody line up, you got to strip your clothes off. So you just lined up with a whole bunch of naked people, like and everybody sees. I felt so bad. I'm not gonna even lie. I felt so bad for my sister because, you know, I feel like they're just violating people, like, of their rights. You just making people just strips. And like, my sister did not want to take her clothes off, which of course I didn't either. But I more so really didn't care. But it was just, I felt like, you know, my sister was really getting violated. The other women in there were getting violated because, you know, you haven't taken clothes off. And when I say you gotta take everything off, you gotta take everything off. So they make you take everything off. They come over there and they check you, make sure you don't have nothing in your butt. And that was really uncomfortable. And then you're still standing there naked, and they come down one by one. They pass you your jumpsuit, which is the orange jumpsuit. So that was like really disgusting. It was total violation. So anyway, so yeah, so we put the jumpsuits on, and at that point, you know, we're in our jumpsuits. So that's what we were using as far as blankets too, because this jumpsuits are kind of big, so you just kind of ball up inside of them. So yeah, after that, like I said, we don't have no clock. We don't know what time it is. We don't know what day it is. I don't know where my sister is. I didn't talk to my sister. We didn't make any more phone calls. We didn't take showers. It was the most dirtiest experience ever. It was super disgusting. So that sometime around nighttime, I think, we ended up going to court. So you go to court inside when you're in jail. I don't know if this is for every jail, but in this jail, you go to court and you see a judge. But the judge isn't like physically there. They're on a TV. So I remember they call my name and they start reading my charges. And I'm like, why am I getting charged with this? Like, this doesn't even make sense. They start talking about how the girl said that I pulled her through the window and she had bald spots for missing hair, and she had bruises, and she had this, she had that. And I'm like, wait. All of that didn't even happen. Like, I didn't even do all of that. So I'm like, why? You know what I'm saying? The girl lied. So they're reading the charges and stuff, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this. So long story short, court was over with. My sister, I saw my sister in court. Actually, I saw her in court. I was so excited. They read her stuff too, but we got the same thing. But I was so happy to see her. I was like, are you okay? Like, everybody knew that we were sisters, so they're all trying to help us get next to each other. So I just made sure that she was okay and stuff like that. She told me that they were in cells. So they were actually in the bunks. So that was good. She had a bed. I was like, that I didn't really care about what I was going through. As long as she was good, that's all that I care about. Because it was kind of my fault. Well, it was my fault that she was in there. So yeah, so ended up going back. By this time, I want to say we were in there for like 4 or 5 days. At that point, we never even got to call my mom again. Well, yeah, because we didn't have access to the phones. So next thing I know, days later, my name ends up getting called, and I'm like, ooh, why are they calling my name? So my mom had finally ended up being able to bond us out, and my boyfriend at the time is the one who had picked us up. So whenever they called us, you know, they let us know that we had got bonded out. I go outside and I'm like waiting on my sister, so I immediately call my mom. I charge my phone, I immediately call my mom, and I'm like, you know, did you do Shay? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, she's not here. I'm like, where is she? But I couldn't go back in because I wanted to find my sister. I'm like, I need my sister. So we're just waiting, we're waiting. Now, before I even go into all of that, I thought that my boyfriend at the time had bonded me out. Come to find out, he did not bond me out. I asked him, I was like, you bonded me out? Because at this moment, I didn't know who bonded me out. So I thought it was him. So I was like, you bonded me out? He was like, no. And I was like, who bonded me out? And he was like, I think it was your mom. So that's when I called my mom and got the rest of the information and asked her about my sister. So I was like, you didn't even like give my mom no money to help bond me out? My bond was only $100. So, and he had just got paid. So I'm like, you didn't give my mom no money to bond me out? He was like, well, didn't nobody tell you to go out and go fight and go to jail? So at this point, I had to put a pin in that argument because I'm only worried about my sister. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna handle you when we get home. But my sister finally came out. I was super excited. I got to hug my sister. We had been in there, of course, super stanky, you know, hadn't showered, just super dirty and things like that. So first thing that we did was we went to the taco truck. We had got so much food because we hadn't ate that whole time, except for me. I ate the oatmeal cream pies. But so yeah, we got food. You know, we dropped my sister off at home. I went home, we showered, and I'm like looking in the house, and the same dishes that was in the house when I left was still in there. And I said, you didn't wash the dishes? And he was like, no, it was your turn to do it when you left. I was like, wait. And at that moment, the other argument that had popped up, it just all came back and it got so heated. Things went totally left as soon as I got home. I'm like, you stupid idiot. You act like I planned on going to jail whenever I got home. I mean, whenever I had left. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. That's not even for this video. But anyway, I feel like what I've learned from that process was my road rage, number one, has calmed down a lot. Because it's not worth it. It's not worth losing your life behind. It's not worth going to jail. I had to pay, I paid my fines, my lawyer fees, and I also had paid for my sister. We ended up getting a year of probation. And I also had to pay the girl her stuff, and I also wasn't allowed to go around her. But I didn't even know the girl. That was like the first, that day that we got into it was the first day that I saw her. So it's not like I had been around this girl or anything like that, but I wasn't allowed to go around her. So just like restrictions and stuff like that. Like I said, we had the probation for a year. But the money that I had to pay for that, I was just like, I could have put that money towards something else. Like, I honestly don't see how people get in trouble and then have to pay all these fines and stuff and then just constantly keep going back and back and back and have to pay these things. Like, I don't want to pay my money towards that. If I work hard for my money, I want my money to at least go to something that I can enjoy. So just learning that, you know, you have to pay like all these fines and stuff like that, I was like, no, I don't play about my money. So the other thing that I learned, because we got a class, I believe we had got a class A misdemeanor on our record, which was kind of tough finding jobs after that, because, you know, you got a record now, and we had got assault with bodily injury, which people just think you're a murderer when they see that. So it was really hard to kind of find a job after. Even a couple of years, you know, when it came time that I had wanted to get an apartment, I couldn't get an apartment because some apartments will allow you to have, you know, a record, but it depends on what it is. And the assault with bodily injury, a lot of the apartments didn't allow, so it was hard for me to find an apartment, and things like that, you know. So it really did change me. Like I said, I don't have road rage anymore. I toned that completely down, and I can honestly say that jail is not for me. That's not a place that I want to be. It's not a place that I ever think about going back to. Even if I get a ticket, I'm like, let me pay this ticket, because you even have people who was sitting out their tickets there. I don't even want to go sit my ticket out. I would rather pay my money for the ticket. I'm not going to go sit in no jail. I'm just being straightforward, honest. You know what I'm saying? From the food to the where you got to sleep to not taking showers, like just the whole experience is disgusting. Is something that I do not ever want to go back to 100%. So I just feel like with that whole experience, it taught me so much. It made me humble myself as far as like being more appreciative for the things that I have, you know, and just showing me that it's not worth it. You know, these days you see a lot of people who get killed behind road rage, and I was that person. I would follow you. I remember throwing stuff at people on the freeway, doing all types of crazy stuff, and it's literally by God's mercy and his protection that something worse didn't happen because of the level of road rage that I had. Like, you could honk at me and I would just be totally crazy. So at this point, you want to get over, I let you over. You want to hump, it don't faze me. I refuse, I honestly refuse to go back to jail behind something stupid again. That was honestly the most stupidest thing that I did, you know. Like I said, life-changing experience, but I would not want to go back. It's not worth it at the end of the day. And when I see people who have road rage, I'm like, I remember being like you, but not no more. That's just not cool. So me concluding this video, you know, a lot of times now I think about stuff before I do it. I think about what the consequences are going to be, because even though at that time I wasn't looking for an apartment, you know, but later on, a couple of years later, here I am trying to get an apartment. I can't even get approved for an apartment because of something that took place years ago, you know. So you have to think, even though at that time, you know, you're not worried about it, you're not concerned about, you know, what you need, a couple of years down the line, you're going to end up needing something, and this record or, you know, this situation that happened can cause a lifetime effect, you know. And so, you know, I just say be careful of the things that you do. You know, think about the choices that you're going to make, the decisions that you choose to make, because sometimes it not only affects you but the people around you. Because even my sister, you know, I felt really bad because my sister had got a record. My sister had got the same charge that I did. She had to go through this experience because of me. You know, it wasn't her who decided to fight and stuff like that. My sister fought because of the two dudes that jumped in. But if I would have just kept driving and, you know, took her to the doctor's appointment like I was supposed to, then that wouldn't have happened. She wouldn't have had to, you know, endure that experience and stuff like that. And so, you know, that ended up affecting her as well. You know, it was hard for her to get jobs and stuff like that. You know, this is my little sister, you know, I'm the older sister, I'm supposed to set an example and things like that. So, you know, I just say, you know, you have to think about the choices that you make, think about who it affects, you know, around you and stuff like that, because it does affect people around you, you know, and it affects your future. I thank God that I'm in a place now to where I'm able to admit my wrong, and that's not who I am anymore. You know, it's a mistake, it's a learning experience, but I'm happy that's not who I am. I'm happy that I can be driving around and someone can blow their horn and it does not affect me. They don't have that power over me to bring me out of character just because they're blowing their horn or something like that. So I love how I'm at a place of peace. I'm at a place of, you know, people don't control me. They don't control my emotions and where I'm at. So if you have anger, road rage, that's something that you're dealing with, deal with it quickly, because you don't want to wait until you have to go through an experience to make you change how you're acting. You know, it's no rush to where you're trying to be. If you're late, then you're already late. And if people, you know, if they're driving crazy, let them be the ones to drive crazy. Don't encourage it, don't give into it and stuff like that. And, you know, yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video about my experience in jail. Definitely, again, won't be something that I ever go back to. And I look forward to telling you guys my next testimony and sharing my next journey with you. So, hope y'all have a good one.